Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Strike Zone with St. Paul Saints Manager George Tsamis. Strike Zone is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the St. Paul manager questions about the Saints, baseball or sports in general, or just seek George's wisdom about life events that are going on. In this week's episode, we have an exciting program for you as George talks about the recent signing of Anthony Phillips by the Los Angeles Angels. He discusses whether the Saints have their own Saints Fest, much as in the Twins program is, and he discusses the signing of Kevin Hooper by the San Diego Padres as one of their new coaches. So let's get right to Strike Zone. We want to welcome back Manager George Tsamis this week. George, let's first of all begin with team updates you have for us.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. It's good to talk to you again. And today, Anthony Phillips had his contract purchased by the Angels, and it's a real good thing for him, and we're real happy for him. And you saw him play a bunch this season, and he is just a solid shortstop that made the plays, all the routine plays he made, and then he made plays that a lot of guys, balls guys couldn't have got to. He got to him and made some nice plays, and he is an excellent shortstop, and he'll be a tough guy to replace. And his fielding percentage is one of the best we've ever had in our league, and it's a great thing for him, and that's why he's playing. That's why all these guys are playing, or that's why they all should be playing, to get back to an organization, and it's great for him. And I hope he goes there, has a good spring training, and has a chance to maybe make the AA team or the AAA team, and because good shortstops are hard to find, and he'll be a tough guy to replace.
His is a real interesting story because started his baseball career in South Africa, which is kind of an interesting tale.
Yeah, he called me from over there from the other night when he told me about the Angels had just contacted him and wanted to purchase him. So again, it's great for him. They had showed some interest, on him with a couple weeks left in the season, but they ended up going with another guy. But it's good for him, and I hope it works out for him because he's a great kid too. And again, like I said, finding good shortstops those are tough guys to find.
Absolutely, and he was the best in the league by far in terms of fielding. He was just phenomenal.
Yeah, he was great, and I know Frias from Kansas City he's an exciting shortstop as well too, and makes spectacular plays too. But it's Phillips he's just a steady guy to have, and so good for him, and good luck to him.
Heading into after the tragic loss of the New England Patriots yesterday, we want to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl with you before we get into the fan questions. So, Denver, Carolina, what are you thinking about the matchup so far?
The way Carolina's playing, it looks like they're playing outstanding football, and they have all year long. And with 2 weeks for the Super Bowl here, I would say Carolina's going to win that game. But like I've told you 500 times this season and this off season about things that go on, you just never know in sports on what's going to happen. But I think Carolina's going to be your Super Bowl champion.
I sure look that way. Heading into our fan questions for this week, let's first of all begin with Kevin from Chaska, who asks, with the losses you have had recently to affiliate ball, do you have a priority in terms of what you will be looking for? I know you talk about looking for the best player you can find, but is there a hierarchy of where you want to focus your search?
It's obviously we've had several losses and some big losses too, and we have our work cut out for us to try to replace replace the guys we lost in the last few months, and we have a few months to do it. And it's obviously with the speed we had and the great defense we had last year. It's obviously you'd like to have some guys like that, and guys who can play good defense, and being strong up the middle is something that we were this year. And you know what? I know we've lost these guys, but there are a handful of other guys on our team that I think should get a shot as well too, or could get a shot. And Alonso is as good as anybody out in center field. To have him out there, he's a guy to me that can play in AA. As Willie Argo, come here, he played in AA. Willie Argo is an excellent outfitter as well too. And guys like Dustin Crenshaw, who I really wish he would get a shot. I think he walked 7 guys all year long and has been a real good pitcher in our league. Kramer Snead won 15 games, and Rotobaugh led the league in saves, and Coe and Shields had good years, and I think there's several guys that could get a shot, and if you lose any more of them, it's great for them. But we have a lot of positions to replace here, and but we've been in this position before, and it doesn't really matter, I guess, what the team looks like at the end of January. It matters what it looks like in the middle of May.
I would take it at this point, do you approach this thinking that you've talked a little bit last season about how the Yankees had looked at Willie Argo, and it was an injury that had kind of deterred them from coming after him. And Alonzo Harris, as you're saying, would be an outstanding Double-A prospect somewhere. Do you have to kind of approach heading into the season thinking to yourself, I may lose one of these guys, so I got to build in that eventuality as well?
It's during the season. You always do what's best for the player, and if somebody comes calling for him, then obviously you let him go, and you hope they get to the big leagues. But during the season, you can't worry about if you're going to lose a guy. You got to go out there and put the best team out there. And if you lose some guys, you lose some guys, and it's my job to replace them.
Next comes from Ben from St. Paul, who wants to know, what kinds of things do you think are most important in the guys you want as your catchers?
You need a catcher. You need a guy that's back there that knows what he's doing, knows how to call a game. Like Vinny was a guy that guys like throwing to, and Joey Pashort too. Guys like throwing to him, and they're good guys and smart back there, and and good receivers too. Guys that receive the ball well, and catching isn't just catching the ball. It's knowing the hitters and calling a good game, and so I think losing Vinny is going to be a tough thing as well. And but we'll come up with a good guy here in the next few months.
Do you know if Joey Pachoric is going to be back, or if he's considering, or where his status is at?
Yeah, I know he wants to play, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. It's like I said, in our league, it's a little tricky with the you can only have 5 veterans on your team, so I'm not really sure what's going to happen, in that spot or with him. But we will see.
Sid from Minneapolis has kind of a lengthy question for you. He says, George, been a Saints fan for 20 years, and I think you were doing a great job. I am wondering about something that I have heard discussed for quite some time. In independent ball, you hear that some managers will give bad reports about a player so that a major league team won't want them. Doesn't this kind of thing get around to players who may consider signing with that team?
I think eventually it could. I know we'll always do what's best for the player. That's something that we've always done, and I know Wichita does a great job of getting their players signed. But when things like that happen, it's unfortunate, and sometimes the players will never find out about it. But when guys come out of organizations, when the guys get released and everybody's calling for players, there's a lot of cases the players are going to just take the most money and whoever's offering the most money. So you would hope that players kind of do their homework before they sign, but that's just something that, if and when that stuff happens, it's unfortunate because a lot of times players will never find out about it.
Is this something, without you casting aspersions upon anybody individual or anything, but this is something that is kind of a widely known idea that there are managers who do that kind of thing then?
Well, that's something you said, and
okay.
I hear things like everybody else hears them.
Okay, excellent. George, what is his tackle?
We try to play it the right way. We play it the right way, and we try to do things right, and we'll always do what's best for the players.
Excellent. Craig from Edina would like to know, what are some things you learned about CHS Field from last season that you will try to use as part of your home field advantage for this year?
Okay, well, the first thing I learned is that the beautiful stadium, as you saw, and there's not one nicer anywhere. It's just a great place for. It's like I've always said, the line that I always use is it's a big league feel there, and it sure is, and it's a great place. And I know it's pretty spacious out there in center field. You better have some quick outfielders, and we feel we do. And you know what? It's the short porch in right field. I think it's going to be important if we can get a few more left-handed hitters this year, and that's something maybe last year we were lacking, but get a few good lefties and and speed's always nice.
I would think too that the Mike Krasnica showed you that having a good strong-armed right fielder, because of the way how short that is, a lot of times you get good bounces off that wall and can make some big plays. Having a good strong-armed right fielder is a key point as well.
Absolutely, and that's the case anywhere. But the outfitters we had last year, Krasnica, he was an excellent right fielder with a good arm and just a good outfitter. And obviously Alonso was great in center, and Argo was great in left. And that's something we were fortunate to have. We just had quality outfitters, and even when Krasnica, retired there towards the end of the season when we got Espinoza and that trade deadline deal. He's another guy that was good to have, and but now they're gone, and we're looking for a right fielder, and hopefully we find a good one.
Annie from Woodbury would like to know, will guys like Mitch Elliott and others who you had on your roster but who later became coaches for you be a part of your team this season?
As of right now, I'm first thing Mitch Elliott, he's going to be playing in the Frontier League this year in Florence, and that's good for him. It's a younger league, and I hope he can go there. And I think if he gets a chance to play every day, I think he could be a good player, and I hope it works out for him. In the past, there have been times maybe at the end of the season when we've had guys and maybe we didn't have a roster spot, and they've been with us all year, and they're good guys, and they work hard. We wanted to keep them around to be part of the team, and but as of right now, it'll just be Kerry Lightberg be the pitching coach, and Ole Sheldon will be the hitting coach, and that's what we'll go with this season.
Annie from Woodbury. I'm sorry, we did Annie from Woodbury. My mistake. Ted from Minneapolis would like to know: are you thinking you're going to be a Dodgers fan after Angelo and Vinny sign with them?
I hope so. I hope they can get there, and it'd be nice if they can start off the season, wherever they are. Hopefully if they're in Double-A, or if they can make it to Triple-A and maybe get a chance, or maybe get into some big league, spring training games. Hopefully that happens, and hopefully they get to meet Vin Scully someday. And
yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully he gets to call some of their games. That would be a great thing for them. But if they can get to the big leagues, then yes, I'll pull for the Dodgers.
Billy from Lino Lakes would like to know, and I'm assuming he's talking about from independent ball. He says, do you find that some organizations give guys a much better shot in their minor league system than other teams do?
It seems like, the Diamondbacks have always been a team that's always come after the independent players, and they've got something. And the Twins at times, too, they have as well. I think more and more teams are starting to, and like I said, obviously with the Dodgers, and, taking Angelo and Vinny, and I think more and more, it just seems like there's different teams now following other teams doing it. Like I said, Arizona was the one team that I've always noticed that stood out, that always came after the guys, and the Marlins as well now. And Espinoza now he's going to be a scout for them, and I know he's asked me about some players, and I know they've signed some independent guys. So hopefully more and more teams, come after the independent guys, because just because guys playing in the independent leagues, that doesn't mean he can't play. And there's several guys that have played on our team and our organization and our league that have got back to the big leagues. So sometimes it's just a numbers game, and maybe it didn't work out then, but that doesn't mean they're not talented.
Mary from St. Paul would like to know if you go to the Twins Fest and if the Saints do like a Saints Fest.
I've never been to Twins Fest, and that would be something that I'd like to do one time. I've never been, and the Saints, we do not have one, and it's the thing with the Saints too. We're plenty of access for the fans, to meet the fans, and the Sunday autographs we do, where the fans come on the field and the kids get to run the bases. That's something that's, I don't know how many teams do that, but I think that's a great way to, meet the fans, and the fans get to hang out with their favorite players for a few minutes and get their autographs and pictures, and it's a nice thing.
Next comes Chuck from Des Moines, who'd like to know, George, with as strong a team as the Royals are and the addition of Justin Upton to Detroit, don't the Twins simply have to make some moves to improve their team, or do you think they are really building the team to compete this season at all?
No, I think they definitely are. They definitely will compete. They're just going to get better, and we know the Royals are great, and the last 2 years they've been excellent, and the Justin Upton to Detroit, that's going to help them too. But just because a team spends more money, that doesn't mean that it's a ticket to the World Series. So guys got to go out there and play. And like I said 100 times, nobody expected the Mets to get there, but they had the good pitching and timely hitting, and there's no reason why the Twins can't stay in it and compete. And who knows what can happen at the trade deadline if they're in it and they're competing and have a shot. Maybe they can make a move then.
I think sometimes fans forget how the Royals got to be so good, and that was building from their farm system. So that's the Twins model now, I think.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's good. It's I kind of like it that way too. When guys, use the guys that came up their system. I don't know. I've said before, it's just getting harder for me when guys keep switching teams every year, and guys, on this team, guy was on that team, and they change teams every year, and you never know who's playing for who. You kind of pull for the. Like I think it was nice to see the Royals win it because a lot of their guys that came up the system and didn't spend at the top of the salaries, in the league, and I'm hoping the Twins can do it.
Frank from Richfield would like to know, Skipper, after a fastball, what is the second best pitch a young player should learn to add to their arsenal?
I think the changeup's good, and I think it's especially the younger kids. Fastballs and changeups, so they really need to throw, and if they want to play for a long time, just stay away from the breaking balls, the curveballs, sliders, and just learn how to throw a good changeup and just messing around with a couple of different grips and throw which one works best for you.
David from St. Paul has an interesting question for this week. He says, if Kevin Hooper left the Wingnuts, do we have to worry about you leaving as well?
Nope, you don't, and I will be there as long as they want me to be there, and I love my job. I love being there, and I have no plans of leaving, and so I'll be there for a long time. And I think Kevin Hooper made the right decision. In the job he was offered, and I think it's great for him. And that's a guy that's always done it the right way. Had good teams, gets to the championship, always makes the playoffs. But one of the most important things to me is he always got his players signed, and I think he's had more players signed over the last few years than anybody, and a lot of them came during the season when the organizations came calling for him, and he does it the right way, and he's been rewarded for it, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see Kevin Hooper in the big leagues here in the next couple of years.
I was kidding him that I thought the reason he took that job back because he was missing El Paso, because that's the AAA team for San Diego, and I wonder if he came back there.
You know what? Yeah, they have that new stadium now, so he gets to go see that new stadium, so and Hooper too. He was a player in our league a few years ago too, and he was an excellent shortstop. This guy, he was something. He made the plays, and I still remember him being 34 for 35 and stolen bases. He had took the biggest leads, and I always thought we were going to pick him off. We never could, and he was one of the better players that I've seen in the league in all the years I've been doing this.
Heading into our football questions, we start from Ian from Minneapolis, who asked, George, what went wrong yesterday with the Patriots? They just couldn't block anyone for Tom Brady.
I'll tell you what, that was a tough one, and it bugged me too, because I was definitely pulling for the Patriots, and when the game was over, it bothered me, so I must care about them a little bit, and not as bad as when the Vikings lost that game. That was something that was like I told you, I'd rather lose that game 30-0 than lose like that, but you know what? The Patriots, they just got outplayed, and Brady, he had no time. It's like they were in his face. I don't know. I think he got knocked down like 19 or 20 times. I saw, on one of the post-game shows, and it was like the most that a quarterback's been hit all year. And Von Miller was something else. And I think the Patriots are an excellent team, and Brady's excellent, but he didn't have much time to throw, and they knocked him down a bunch of times. And Denver was the better team yesterday, and you know what? I think that home field advantage, I think that hurt the Patriots by losing it there the last couple of weeks when they lost those games.
Absolutely. Walter from Brainerd would like to know from you. So do you see Manning going out as a Super Bowl champion, or is it going to be a repeat of the Super Bowl the Broncos had against the Seahawks?
It'd be nice to see, Manning go out, as a Super Bowl champ, but I don't think it's going to happen. And not that my opinion means anything, but I just don't think it's gonna. I think Cam Newton is playing some outstanding football, and you know what? I've always talked about how nasty the Vikings defense is and how good they are. Well, that's Carolina's defense too. They're just a nasty defense, and they play great on both sides of the ball. So, like I said before, I think Carolina is going to win that game.
Going kind of along the same lines, Kyle from St. Paul would like to know, this is a matchup of the number one offense in Carolina versus the number one defense in Denver. Shouldn't we all believe Denver is going to win?
No, I don't think we should. And I don't know what Carolina's defense is ranked, but it's real good. And so I think Carolina's going to be their next Super Bowl champion. I think so, too. T from Minneapolis asks, George, isn't the Pro Bowl the worst All-Star game? I know a lot of people have a problem with it, and I've heard this a million times, people complaining about it. I personally don't have a problem with it because I enjoy watching, I enjoy watching football. So, I do remember a few years ago, though, when the guys weren't even trying to tackle, and it kind of made it tough to watch. But I personally don't have a problem with it. Our last question for the week comes from Michael from Minneapolis, who's a fellow Bay Area person like George and myself. He says, George, I am also from the Bay Area as you and Rob are. Do you guys remember Crazy George at A's games? Wasn't he the best mascot kind of guy ever? I do remember him. I do remember being a little kid and loving him. A lot of people probably don't know who he is, but you and I do, and he was a great guy to watch. And, another guy I really like, too, still to this day, if I saw him today, I would laugh. I really liked the San Diego Chicken, too. That was the guy that it made me laugh. And so there are some good ones out there, and if they can make you laugh, then they're doing a good job. I think they were kind of like the pioneers of that whole idea, too. I liked that. So. Yep, that was way back in the day. Absolutely. Well, George, thanks for joining us this week, and we'll look forward to seeing you pre-Super Bowl next Monday. Okay, great. Thank you very much. We want to thank Manager George Tsamis for joining us on Strike Zone this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the St. Paul Saints skipper, please send them to us at AskGeorge@MinorLeagueSportsReport.com. That's AskGeorge@MinorLeagueSportsReport.com. Once again, please have your questions to us by Sunday evening so we can give the skipper a little time to review them before we record the show on Monday. I want to apologize about the show being up a little late this week. It's that I had a little root canal that got severely infected, and it was a little difficult to get some of this stuff done. So thank you for your indulgence. We will see you next week on Strike Zone.